right. You tuned into the #1 undisputed boxing podcast today. This is the Boxing Breakdown. Now, your heavy-handed, hard-hitting host, Mark Roxey.
What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to another edition of the Boxing Breakdown, and I am your host, Mark Roxey. What's going on, people? It's a pleasure to be with you again tonight, and we're going to get right into this. We are not going to spend too much time with lazy, slow introductions, okay? But I am going to tell you that we got a big problem right now, guys. We got a big problem. And that is that Triple G Promotions finds themselves in court with Golden Boy Promotions. Here we go again. I cannot believe it. And to get his commentary on this, I am going to invite my partner in crime and good friend, professional boxing judge, Mr. Harold Hunt. What's up? What's up? What's up?
Hey, what's up? What's up, man? This is an interesting topic today, and we have the perfect person to get it out there for us to understand clearly.
Yeah, man. Hey, listen, Harold, before we get into this, bro, I think there's going to be some more lawsuits, okay? We're going to talk tonight. You guys listening in on the Boxing Breakdown, we are going to talk tonight about legal do's and don'ts and really best practices so that you don't find yourself in a hot seat with some serious litigation going on. You know, you should be so lucky that you'd be litigating for $10 million. But, you know, I'm looking at this Will Smith and Chris Rock episode on the Oscars last night, and I'm dumbfounded, man. Did you catch that, Harold?
Yes, I did, and I have a complete explanation of that situation. However, this is boxing, and I do have a very succinct situation of why he did what he did.
Okay.
If you want me to go into it, I can. If not, let's just stick to the boxing. But if you want me to expound, say so. I am dying to deliver.
Well, please do tell. I would love to hear your perspective on the Oscar slap that was heard around the world. Let's go, because our Boxing Breakdown people are talking about it anyway.
Okay, quickly. Jada Pinkett has complete control over that man to the point where she didn't choose him to marry him. She was in love with Tupac and another gentleman.
Oh,
he was her fallback. When a woman doesn't respect you or doesn't choose you, she will always not give you her best. She's messed around with other people as they go along, but Will is so ridiculously in love, living on his emotions as a man should not do. And she can simply go in public, say she has another man. Then at the Oscars on last evening, the culmination of all this is when the joke first came out, he was laughing. She wasn't. She looked at him like you look at your child and said, "What?"
What? He
immediately changed his demeanor, got up and went and slapped that man. Seconds before that, he was laughing at the joke because it was funny.
Yeah.
But she said she looked right at him and changed him, and he went up there. Now, of course, he's showing that he has no control over his emotions, no control over her, and she can do and say whatever she wants. He is, in fact, simply, he's gone as a man when it comes to her.
Wow.
He won the Oscar last night.
Yeah.
The Oscar is a huge situation for any man as an actor. Yet now the Oscars are thinking about pulling away from him because he displayed violence at the at the Oscars.
Yeah.
Now, Denzel Washington and what's name went over to console him. They didn't go to console him because he hit the man. They're saying, man, you are out of control.
Yeah.
You got to get this woman in check. But it's done. That woman has him.
Wow.
And there you go.
Man, did you hear that?
On the boxing.
On the boxing. Well, with that, look, if I ever had that situation in my particular situation, I would call the one and only, the one, literally, the one, the only, Mr. Paul Haberman, Esquire. He's going to bail me out of that situation. What's up, Paul?
How's everybody doing?
Oh, man.
I gotta say, Will Smith doesn't seem like he hits too hard for a Philadelphia fighter, but
yeah, well, that's true.
I'll say
Man.
about that.
Well, Paul, we are delighted to have you on the program again, as always. And tonight we are going to get into this litigation. And
Okay.
I'm really thankful that you came on the program, because I know our listeners love to hear what you have to say about these kinds of legal predicaments. But I wonder how, if you'd be willing, Paul, to just share a little bit about what you do and how you got into boxing litigation.
Okay, well, I am an attorney. I've had my own firm for the last 6 years, practiced in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, and with boxing, where else it might take me at times. That's a worldwide sport. Got my start in boxing. Well, it depends how far back you want to go. In law school, I interned for Star Boxing, Joe DeGuardia's outfit, which is still putting on shows on Long Island in New York today. From there, a few months really after I was admitted to practice law in New York, I had an opportunity to manage former French junior welterweight contender Ali the Hurricane Ubali.
Oh, yeah.
And since then, it's been circumstances surrounding my work with him and just being around the sport during that time. I've had boxing clients as an attorney ever since, including 3 or 4 current or former world champions, and probably a total of somewhere between 30 and 50 people around the sport. I lose track. But it's an interesting component of what's otherwise a business litigation, health law, and more global sports practice these days.
Wow. And are there any notable, former, current champions that we might know?
Yeah, I don't tend to talk about my clients too much on camera, though. They like that.
Yes, I was going to see if I can walk you into that.
I have discretion.
But yeah, I appreciate that. And I really, really do appreciate that, especially, well, anyway. So next, I'd like to welcome to the program John Mareska, who is a boxing manager promoter. He's going to tell you a little bit about what he does. And so let's see if we can grab him. And there you are. What's up, John?
Thanks for having me, Mark. So I'll start with what I was kind of saying before. Basically, so I love the sport of boxing. I do not like the business side at all, but I kind of got, involved by necessity more than anything else. Had a bunch of, so I used to box as a kid. Then I opened a gym, started training young fighters. Then some of them got pretty good, want to go pro. We searched everywhere for a manager we liked. We couldn't find one. So I kind of got roped into that. Couldn't get him any fights. So I had to start putting my own shows on. So I left the managing side to go to the promoter side. Did a bunch of shows like that. And then from there, it just parlayed into, I wanted to get out of the business side. I started a bunch of programs through school districts and cities in California, New Jersey. I just been really lucky. Some of the people I've gotten to work with through the years, just proud of that. And, here we are. And that's the gist of it.
Yeah, man. Well, welcome to the program. I think this is the first time we've had you on. And to be honest, I don't know why it took us so long, but I'm delighted that you're here. You're an exceptional manager and a great all-around guy.
Yes,
and I thought, what better group of guys to get on the program to talk about this litigation. So, y'all that are listening in, man, on the Boxing Breakdown, you have the benefit of hearing from quite a different series of perspectives about this Gulati Golovkin suit. So I'm wondering, Paul, if you can just break down the gist of it.
Gist of it is, Gennady Golovkin had his own promotional outfit, GGG or Triple G Promotions, that officially co-promoted the rematch with Canelo Alvarez on what's the date? They say here, September 15th of 18. And there's an agreement as far as a monetary split, and to just kind of make it as simple as possible. First, Triple G Promotions alleges that it didn't get paid its full amount for a sizable amount of time. And then they're alleging that certain smaller amounts still haven't been paid, and have taken this to court accordingly. It's not the most exciting lawsuit as far as claims, but it does kind of peer into the world of major promotions and kind of you could take the allegations that Triple G Promotions alleges and kind of wonder what else is going on there, especially when you couple it together with the prior Canelo lawsuit against Golden Boy, other things, and have to wonder why there's not more financial transparency and perhaps fair play coming out of Golden Boy, if you were to believe the allegations and the various complaints over the years. I can't say anything from firsthand experience either way. I just know these seem to keep coming up, and they keep seeming to address, these shortfalls of payments or promises by Golden Boy, and this seems to be the latest one. Can't account for the timing of it. It seems like something they could have filed for a while, except that some of the payments kind of came into focus more recently. But when you have an agreement, especially promoter, it should be fairly transparent all throughout. And it doesn't seem like that was the case here. It doesn't seem like there was timely payments made here, and Golovkin's people have taken action accordingly.
So what, in terms of this particular lawsuit, how did this, do you think this had any bearing on the Canelo Golovkin rematch? Do you think there was any kind of, did this slow it down?
It's tough to say. I mean, I've kind of been wondering myself, and maybe you guys have heard something I haven't over the last 2 years. It's like, or 3 years. Where's Golovkin been? I don't think he would necessarily sit on the shelf just because of his promotional company's dispute with Golden Boy, but especially after Canelo Alvarez flew away from there. But just the same, who knows what drives him to sit down for a minute. Maybe he was disgusted with the business end of the sport because of the last fight. Maybe it was something else altogether. He hasn't really said much about it as far as anything I've read. Just glad to see him back in action soon.
Yeah. So
well, I know he was looking at the interest that was owed. He did get a payment, yeah, but there was interest on that, as you know, that, right, that accumulated that he didn't receive. Then there was some other niceties, other pieces of the revenue that he didn't get either.
Right.
So being that the case, I would go ahead with the next fight just to see if you can recruit that. Now, I did read that there was a percentage that Golden Boy still has in Canelo. And at the third bout, that percentage is significant enough to repay the monies that the lawsuit is asking for, providing the third fight goes through. Now, I don't know what the percentage of that, what it is, 10, 5, 15, I don't know what it is, but it's supposed to be substantial. So all of this monetary gain that's looking to be gotten could be satisfied doing that third fight.
Well, that's excellent, but the problem is this real quick. They had that money already. That shouldn't be dependent on anything. It should be there for Golovkin's people to have had after the fight happened. So the fact that they're saying they can have that money after the third fight, it doesn't excuse that they didn't provide it to him after the second fight, which is several years ago now. And that's kind of the point they make as an underlying theme in the lawsuit. Effectively, they had this, what they're regarding or characterizing in the lawsuit as a $9 million loan to Golden Boy, by virtue of them not being paid the $9 million so they could go dilly-dally around with other things. And now they finally made right on the 9, but there's interest and there's these other fees. So even if they're talking about we could pay it with the next one, that shouldn't be how it operates. this is money they had and just didn't give to them.
Yeah. So
they acknowledged as much according to certain allegations in the complaint.
So, Paul, there's also some reference in the various counts in the lawsuit about wanting interest back on the money, right?
Right.
So I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that.
Well, that probably defers to California law a little bit on interest on monies owed. I can't speak to that as a non-California attorney, but I can tell you that's a fairly common thing to seek when there's money that somebody is being compelled to litigate to get back. Not only are they losing time on getting the money back, they're losing money litigating, and so naturally, interest is something they would go for accordingly and would be entitled to under most states' rules on such situations.
Mm-hmm.
Paul, does this thing really have any teeth, though? We know how boxing has suits all over the place, just sitting around for years. Floyd had one with Pacquiao, this, that, and the other. It was never settled. Don King did this, and Arnold did this, and money was paid, and it's splashed out here, and it's sensational initially. But really, is there any teeth in this? Not really. I don't see any teeth. As long as the fights are happening, it's like when you have a lot of equity in your house and you owe 100 grand, it's worth 800 grand. Yeah, you're going to take out the loan. Who cares? When it's all cash in, you'll be able to pay all the fees, all the fines, whatever, and still walk it with a profit. So to me, this is just splash. This is nothing that's going to come out their pocket initially. They're going to wait till all the fights are done, this, that, and the other.
The point is, we're supposed to come after this fight, so that's their major grievance, which was already supposed to be there for them to take, and it's being held from them by their account in the complaint. So, whether or not there's more money to be made in the future, this is money that was already there. So they're saying the Golden Boy didn't provide or didn't timely provide.
But who's going to make him give it?
Yeah, if you want me to, if I can chime in a little bit, I have firsthand knowledge of all of this. I have. Okay, so first of all, you were talking about you were, kind of a little bit throwing Golden Boy under the bus about, their legal issues. They've had several that are certainly not their fault. And I will tell you that Triple G, the issue here stems with being he wanted to co-promote. It's nothing to do with a purse. In California, Vegas, and most of the Western states, you get your purse. It comes through the commission. You have to cover it through the commission. They cut you a check. And from there, there's no way around it. There's a bond. They activate the bond if you don't get paid, and the promoter will be suspended. So this has nothing to do with Triple G as the fighter. This is when he got involved as a promoter. He left 360 Promotions in a very bad way, first of all. So he might have brought this upon himself a little bit, number one. And number two, I am 100% certain this has nothing to do with the purser. But I have a feeling this is pay-per-view revenues and things like that. That are not as clear cut. And it's a promoter suing another promoter rather than nothing to do with like his purse or anything as the boxing side of it. So, and also with knowing that, I do know it's funny. And you think back to the like Oscar De La Hoya with the Al Heyman lawsuit, the Top Rank lawsuit. Now this one, the Canelo situation, he has, in my opinion, Ryan Garcia is sitting on the shelf to get out of a situation. I'm not so sure this is all Golden Boy. I think Golden Boy is in a position where, and just the current climate of boxing, the business side of it is just ugly at this point. We all know what the current state of it is with, the contracts and everything else. But as far as the contract, I'm baffled by this because, like I said, when I do my own shows or I've been on other shows, you get the promoter has to be able to cover this. The commission has it beforehand, so they know everybody's going to pay it. And if not, they will activate the bond. So Paul, you think I'm correct in saying that this has to do with the promotion suing a promoter, nothing to do with the fighter here, correct?
Right. No, it's filed by the promotional company, not by him as an individual. So that's definitely the case.
It's the back end, right? The back end.
Yeah, it's the back end. They're probably arguing over how many pay-per-view buys, how much, with the gross, with the net, and everything. That's what that sounds like more than anything. What kind of money are we talking about, by the way?
So why is the back end so prevalent? Why lawsuit?
How much money is it?
It takes years to get your back end money. We know this.
Yeah, but not
pay-per-view, and then it takes, like Floyd said, he's still getting checks, and Pacquiao's still getting checks from years ago.
Well, hold on, guys.
Triples in.
Hold on, guys, for a second. Hold on for a second here, because in the complaint, there's basically 5 counts to the complaint. And as we break this down today, we're going to break down the actual sums and how the sums came to be. But basically, the 5 counts are breach of contract. That's number 1. Number 2 is breach of fiduciary duty. That's number 2. Number 3 is conversion. Right? Number 4 is constructive trust. And number 5 is accounting. So there's 5 counts here that we're talking about that the Golovkin legal team has, put in this complaint. And I wonder how, Paul, if we could just touch a little bit on breach of contract. We've touched on other programs for the fighters out there, for the new managers and the people out there that are not really sure what it means to breach a contract. Can you just hit that for a minute?
Breach of contract fundamentally, talking in generalities, is when 2 parties enter into a written agreement or agreement that could otherwise be proven, and material term of it is breached, and as a result, one party suffers damages. By breached, I mean somebody does not follow something that they're supposed to do under the term of the agreement. In this instance, Golden Boy and Triple G Promotions agreed to split revenues from it, and Golden Boy is the one that directly got the revenues, and what they're asserting essentially is that Triple G did not get its fair split, and thus that there was a material breach of the agreement between them accordingly. What's the other one? I mean, what's the next one they say? No, fiduciary duty. They're essentially saying there. Am I going too fast, or should
just number 2 is for the listeners, just so that they understand exactly what the complaint alleges. Breach of fiduciary duty.
Essentially, they're saying that the agreement between the 2 of them as to the second Canelo fight created a fiduciary relationship where they were essentially trusting Golden Boy to do the right thing with their money and everything like that, and they didn't. And that basically relates back to the purported breach, where they're saying that they mishandled, they didn't give their money back, and that kind of feeds into or didn't give them the appropriate split of the money, I should say. And that essentially then feeds into the third part of the lawsuit, which is conversion, where they're saying that they held and or used the money that was rightfully belonged to Triple G Promotions to the detriment or to the inability of Triple G Promotions to use that money themselves. And the last 2 claims are essentially, constructive trust. That's essentially saying Golden Boy should have, should be held to have this money for them in trust. It's not one that I see a lot on this coast, but they're clearly using that in this case. And then for an accounting, they're essentially saying, to the extent that Golden Boy has not been transparent to date in providing a full accounting of all the revenue streams that they would otherwise be splitting up, they want to have the court direct them to do that, and so that it can say with some degree of certainty whether or not they were worked as they think they were on the one hand, and if they were worked, how much was the real amount that they didn't get that they were supposed to get according to the terms of the agreement. And they could only get that by a full accounting of the financials surrounding the fight, which Triple G Promotions apparently reports that they never got, given what's happened or what they're alleging now.
Paul, if say Triple G comes to you and he wants to, get your services, what do you ask him? What would you ask him? Like, for example, I'm going to ask him, first of all, now Triple G Promotions has never done one event. He was with 360. Is there a chance here that this is just a situation where he just forgot to take, he's working off the gross, they're working off the net? Not a big miss. We know it's boxing. Nothing's going to be honest the whole way through, but you're going to want to see some things to even think about taking this case. So, I mean, is there any chance that this is not even anything wrong done here, and he just did his math wrong with a skeleton crew of guys who never worked boxing events?
Well, that's what the accounting should show. And I've actually had several lawsuits involving accountings in different contexts where you might say as the plaintiff at the end, you know what? Maybe you didn't know me as much as I thought, but you don't know that until you get all the relevant information. The interesting thing about that, quick sort of related boxing lesson, is that everybody talks about the Ali Act and financial transparency. That's promoter to fighter. The fighter is supposed to know all the streams of money coming in, so in theory puts them in a position to know whether or not they're being fairly compensated and can be fairly compensated going forward because they understand the economics when they see where the money is coming from. but promoter to promoter, there's no such particular rule, and that's so here. At least they're saying that Golden Boy took liberties with the financial transparency, and that's why they're asking for an accounting. It's almost as if they don't have that remedy as an automatic right, the way the fighters do, who also sue for accountings essentially when they make claim out LEAG violations. But
where was the fight? Refresh my memory. It was in Vegas, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
How did this end up in a California court?
Okay, so let's look at this. Let's look at the general.
G has this company in
California,
LLC,
in
California,
yeah.
and yes, and they're in Delaware.
Well, they're in California, but they have a Delaware. You know how to
Delaware Corporation. Yeah.
No taxes in Delaware.
And expensive corporate attorneys.
Yeah, actually, Clifton, New Jersey, Dines and English LLC. That's
that office is about 40 minutes from mine.
Yeah, and then Mitchell Seberg and Cup LLC, Kevin Gaunt, which is actually located in Los Angeles, California.
Yep, they're a fairly prominent entertainment and sports firm out there.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, here's a general statement of facts, right? So on September 17th, 2017, Gennady Golovkin engaged in a major bout against Canelo Alvarez. And at the time, these were two of the most prominent boxers in the sport. Everybody that's listening in, you all know that. With Gennady Golovkin, he was holding the WBA and the International Boxing Association middleweight titles. And Alvarez was holding the WBC title. And so that the bout that they had was a split draw. For those of you that can't remember back to that, it was a controversial split draw, although many observers felt that Gennady Golovkin actually won the contest, right? So the bout was a great financial success. It garnered one of the largest gates in the history, and it was a huge pay-per-view buy event. So it was huge, and I remember that. Alvarez at the time was promoted by Golden Boy, although right after that, pretty much, I think it was less than 6 months after that. I don't know, Paul, you might remember that better, but he broke with Golden Boy, and he basically asserted, and please tell the listeners, inter alia. What does that mean?
Inter alia?
Inter alia.
Yeah.
What is that? What is that assertion?
Legal gibberish for among other things.
Mark, he was with Golden Boy for both fights. He was still with them for Kovalev, so it was after them. It was after the last two fights have not been Golden Boy. Yeah, he was with Golden Boy till the last two fights.
Okay.
And then he dropped his manager.
Yeah,
he dropped his manager directly after that loss. If you want to say however you want to look at it, that's when he changed managers.
Who
trainers? He trains
Trainers.
Yeah.
I meant trainers.
Well, are you talking about Abel Sanchez? Is that who you're referring to?
Yeah.
Well, Abel Sanchez, I believe, managed and trained him, didn't he? Wasn't he his manager and trained him? Yeah, no, just a trainer. Okay, good. Thank you for that clarification. And then, so here's the thing: Golden Boy had not paid him everything he was owed. Okay, that's what the complaint is asserting, that basically Golden Boy didn't pay him, right? The plaintiff on behalf of Golden Boy and on behalf of Golovkin and Golden Boy began negotiations for a rematch. A written contract was reached for the rematch to take place on May 5th, 2018. So yeah, I mean, that, just to bring it back so you guys remember, that's basically what we're talking about here. 2018, right? It's currently 2022. For those of you that listen back to this podcast at a later date, it is the spring, just the beginning of spring of 2022. So yeah. So anyway, that's it. And the initial rematch contract called for the bout to be a co-promotion between Golden Boy and Triple G, and created a joint venture with fiduciary duties between the joint ventures. Right? So that means both parties had obligations and commitments to financial commitments to the endeavor, right? Is that what that means? Paul?
And to each other, to be honest. Yeah.
Hey, Paul, can I ask you a question as well? Is there a chance that this is just coming to fruition now because COVID, the courts were so backed up? That's part of the reason for the long delay.
Well, that would be more if it was going to trial now. This was being filed now. You could always file in my part of the country during COVID.
Yeah,
right.
There was
Mark,
understandably, there is for a period of time there was a toll, but I suspect this is well within the statutory period anyway. Because just speaking for where I practice, the breach of contract tends to be a longer statute, whether it's 6 years or whatever.
They probably waited to try to get their money without doing this, and now this is the next.
Yeah, for sure.
I think there's some saber rattling. It sounded like in the complaint to try to get some of the money back before they went to the court about it. So
it is being dropped at the right time, though. It's great for marketing and great for the visuals and the optics and all of that. I mean, it's right on time.
Oh, perfect.
I don't know if a publishing person or someone to say, hey, let's just drop this now because it works really well. We're talking about it and the whole world is buzzed about it. I did a fight this weekend. That's all they were talking about. Yeah. So, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Man, oh, Manischewitz. Because I'm going to tell you right now, everybody needs a good old fashioned lawsuit, right? We all love a good old fashioned to get your blood boiling, get yourself in, get your mojo going right before a fight. We need a nice big lawsuit, right? Well, I will tell you that, anyway, staying back on track, on March 15th, 2018, less than 2 months prior to the scheduled bout, results from 2 routine drug tests. Those 2 drug tests disclosed that Alvarez had tested positive for a performance-enhancing drug to, I think it was clenbuterol, if that's right? Alvarez was suspended by... and that was a big deal when it happened. And Alvarez was suspended by the Nevada Athletic Commission, and the bout could
6
not...
months.
Yeah, and at the time, it could not take place. It wasn't going to take place, right? So that's part of what happened, right? Negotiations ensued for the rematch to be held at a later time, on or about June 20th, 2018. An agreement was reached for the rematch to take place on September 15th, 2018. This agreement, captioned addendum to the term sheet dated January 22nd, 2018, was intended as the final contract between the parties for the rematch, right? So just to bring that, I guess the addendum states something like this, and maybe, Paul, you'll break this down for us, but the parties now desire to amend the date of the bout from May 15th, 2018 to September 15th, 2018, and change the original revenue split, right? 55 to Golden Boy Promotions and 45 to Galati Golovkin, with the exception of the net ticket sale revenue, which shall be split on a 55-45 basis only after Golden Boy Promotions receives the first $2.5 million in net ticket sales. So that's I don't know if you guys can feel that heat, but that's
a lot of moving pieces.
But don't forget, Golden Boy has all the expenses. They're paying the undercard fighters. They're paying for the venue. Triple G, trust me, is doing nothing except entitle. He hasn't done one event with that promote. So he just wanted to do it to get his nice bigger cut.
right.
So don't forget that 2.5 million sounds not, like a big number to me, because don't forget they got to pay the undercard fighters. They got to pay the commission. They have to pay for the venue. They have to pay the employees, the travel, and on and on. Insurance. And so, I don't think that I'm telling you, the more we talk about this, I'm changing my side here. I think this is going to be a situation where they're going to look at this further and further. You're going to get 10 grand because, nothing was done wrong.
Right.
Well, if you had a pick, Paul, which way are you going with this?
I'd have to know more firsthand, but it does sound like it's a matter of, was the accounting done properly and they just don't like the outcome, or was it done improperly and they actually just caught them doing it more recently after all this saber rattling about that $9 million or whatever that they finally paid back on a basis?
You might as well go for the throat. If you're going to give me my money up front, let me go ahead and see if I can recoup something else that maybe I do or do not deserve. So drop the lawsuit. Like the man just said, in boxing, nobody's fair.
Well, okay then. Oh my gosh, you guys
Some
listen.
of the operators, they tend to think they're in this like netherworld.
Yeah.
Of laws that don't apply to them. But
I didn't say that.
Well, check this out. Listen, if you're listening in,
CGI did that. That wasn't me.
If you are listening in on Apple Podcasts, we really want to thank you for being with us. Wherever you get your podcasts, thank you for joining us on the program. We whether you're going from here to there in your car or you're just chilling with us on YouTube. And if you're with us on YouTube, obviously you can see the production live right now. And if you'd like to make a comment, you'd like to join in on the conversation, jump on in. We always welcome the listeners to join in and participate. And if you have a question for John or Paul or Mr. Harold Hunt or myself, please just jump on in and I'll make sure that they can hear your comments. Okay. Otherwise, let's get in.
Talk to me.
Yeah, man. Listen. So, a similar provision appeared in paragraph 4 of the addendum, which reads, except as expressly provided below, all gross revenues for the event, with the exception of ticket sales, that's the gate, including but not limited to, okay, this is where it gets juicy, sponsorships, pay-per-view revenue, CCTV, and streaming, all live and delayed rights, and the like, shall be divided 55% to Golden Boy Promotions and 45% to Triple G. The net ticket sales revenue shall be divided 55 to 45 to Triple G. Only after Golden Boy receives the $2.5 million in net ticket sales revenue. Well, that is an interesting little adjustment. I don't know, Paul, did you catch that? Or do you understand the difference?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's that provision that winds up being the problem so much as the bigger revenue picture being the problem later. Because I think they're focused more on the split, and then there's also a claim in there about them getting stonewalled about a sponsorship opportunity as well. It looked like too.
So the sponsorship revenue was something like Triple G Promotions had their logo on the centerpiece of the arena of the ring. There's some talk about the sponsorships for the ring posts and the amounts that were supposed to be given. So that's something like, let's see if we can break this down. The fight was held on September 15th, 2018. It was very successful in terms of the revenue generated. It was a sellout at the gate and did extremely well on domestic United States and international pay-per-view sales. Through the bout, although the bout was a co-promotion between Golden Boy and Triple G, certain funds, including the pay-per-view and the gate, flowed through Golden Boy. Despite the financial success of the event, substantial funds were not timely paid over Triple G by Golden Boy. As of January 2021, nearly 2.5 years after the bout under Golden Boy, on the Golden Boy's own accounting, which were not fully correct, by the way, the sum of $9,025,351 remains due. So the amount that we're actually talking about is $9,025,351. That's what we're really talking about, right?
That was the late amount. But they said, should have gotten to them a lot. So I thought the actual figure in this lawsuit was a little lower because I got a partial payment. But
well,
we could re-own together. But yeah, I thought they paid that belatedly, but there's still an interest issue and a couple of smaller fees that kind of added up.
Right.
Man, like how do you
They're looking for the interest, from how I gather, not being an Esquire, is the interest. They're looking for the interest and some other, pieces. It's like Paul was talking about that are trickling in.
Okay.
So, Paul, do you think that money is going to be recouped, or do you think it's just going to ride itself out? Being, your expertise, you've been in it. You just said you had some personal ties. Just your gut feeling. Forget about Mr. Esquire right there, who's got the legal ease. What's your thoughts?
Well, I think the money's there. I think they're able to pay a judgment in the amount that they're looking for. It's just a matter of whether they will. I mean, it's still a functional business. They still have a whole rack of fighters that have television or streaming relationships that generate money for them from DAZN and wherever else. And so the money's there. This isn't a shell that's being sued for no particularly good reason because there's nothing there. But,
so Paul, you're absolutely right, because when confronted with this situation, Golden Boy representatives admitted that as to the 9,025,351, they had not put aside the money due to its partner Triple G, but had used the money for other purposes. A series of
that's where they're going with the conversion claim, basically.
That's the conversion claim, right? So it's a series of promises that were made for payments, virtually all of which were broken. But as of July 6, 2021, the base sum of $9 million was paid over. However, for an extended period, Golden Boy had the use of these funds, and the $9 million was paid without interest. So they're looking for interest on that.
Yeah, John, please go.
I'm just listening, and just some of the things you're saying. I want to chime in, but I have some. I have reasons I can't at some, not publicly anyway. But some of the things you're saying are making me think twice about things. First of all, do you think, Paul, this is just a scare tactic? We don't know if he screwed us or not, but let's just sue him and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean that's something I've seen happen just when negotiations break down. And if they're talking about July 2021, it sounds like at some point they were negotiating for a while and it broke down. And it's like, do we leave it on the table and say forget about it, or do we pursue it? We still have time on the statute, so I guess they took the.
Yeah, it's almost like we have nothing to lose. We don't have the manpower to figure it out if we got wronged or not. Let's sue him and go sort it out later. Kind of. That's. Like I said, the more we talk about this, the more I'm leaning one way. Definitely, I really don't understand. And then if you're suing somebody, is that going to hurt? I think Mark asked in the very beginning, how are you going to do a third fight when you're suing somebody?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think
it's optics to me.
I don't get this one.
Marketing. It's beautifully placed.
I think there's more theatrics than
yes.
And then so Paul said what's better? So you're Triple G. What's the best outcome here? A settlement, a judgment? You don't find anything? Like what this seems like it'd take years and years and years to even figure out.
Yeah.
I'd say the best outcome is he beats Murata resoundingly and also gets a favorable settlement in this case. Because this case could be the golden parachute if he loses to Murata. That's why I'm adding Murata.
For sure.
The best case scenario.
Yeah. And Golden Boy can drag their feet. They don't have the gun to the head to pay the money right now. So what?
No. I'm sorry. You know what? This has nothing to do with that, because Golden Boy has nothing to do with Canelo anymore. So
I'm talking about the lawsuit is directed toward them.
Yeah, no, but Canelo and Golden Boy have since parted ways, so it can't affect anything with. Yeah, so it doesn't even matter. It's
okay. Remember I brought up earlier though about the percentage. Remember when Mosley fought, was with Mayweather and those guys, and Mosley had subsequent fights, and Mayweather said, "Look, I still got my hand in your pocket because you're still under contract. It's a small amount." And correct me if I'm wrong, there still is a percentage that that Golden Boy is attached to Canelo for a certain amount of fights. It may be very small, but it is in fact there. So this next fight, they got their hand in the pocket for Bivol. They got their hand in the pocket for Triple G. It's not substantial, but it is in fact there because when he left, it ended
with the last one. Oscar wasn't at Canelo's last fight. It ended with the fight prior. He doesn't have any interest in Canelo at this point at all.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is just a strange situation. Maybe actually he waited to sue. And now that we're thinking about this, maybe he waited to sue him now because of the fact that it would have hurt the fight if he was still with Golden Boy. Maybe that he's not with Golden Boy. It is the right time to sue. You know what? It won't hurt the first fight. It has nothing to do with him.
All right, hold
upon
up.
the release, there was a percentage that would say, okay, you can leave, but we want a percentage of your next fight. You know how that goes.
No, he had to pay a dollar amount, and also there was a little bit, but that ended with the fight prior to the last one. Oscar wasn't even at the last Canelo fight. Remember, he had Eddie Hearn in the ring, and he was saying how much he loves Eddie. And
completely understood.
Yeah.
All right, so let's back up a little. I hit my rewind button, and so
is that legitimate, or is that just a sound effect?
Just rewind, baby. So there was an initial disagreement over two additional sums, which Triple G claimed to be due. Right? So Golden Boy did not properly compute the money due from the net gate receipts. So there's also a computation part of this suit where, Triple G alleges that the net ticket sales revenue shall be, was 55 to 45 to Triple G, only after Golden Boy receives his $2.5 million. Remember that? To ticket revenues. So after this was pointed out, Golden Boy on September 27, 2021, issued a revised accounting of the money, showing correctly that an additional 1.375 million was due to to Triple G. So it's $1,375,000.
Now you start to see why they're getting a little suspicious of what Golden Boy was doing now that they've made two corrections or acknowledgments about the revenues. So again, whether or not they wind up being found liable, or even if they are or not, it certainly doesn't smell right that they've had to make two adjustments.
Right.
To their reporting to Triple G Promotions. So.
Right. And Triple G demanded the money. And despite the clear contractual language in the contract, as we've just reviewed like 3 or 4 times, it spells out 55-45, right? Golden Boy refused to pay it under the guise that the contract language written by its own counsel was an error. Golden Boy refused to pay the $1,375,000, which Golden Boy's own accounting reflected to be due. In fact, the contract's language is clear and does not support Golden Boy's position. So that's where there may be, like you said earlier, there may be some money, right?
No, but who mentioned earlier, it takes 3 years to figure out what the buys were. Sometimes things get adjusted, and I agree with that. I mean, there might be just might not have been anything wrong. It just being, and then Triple G not being an experienced promoter is probably seeing this as raising red flags. You got inexperienced people with them running the promotion, lawyers who don't deal in the boxing world, and they're saying, "Oh yeah, this looks suspicious." But if you get experienced boxing people, they're gonna say, "No, this is exactly how it goes."
Okay,
and
so
Paul would know that because he's an experienced boxing guy. So what do you think, Paul?
Well, again, I mean, whether or not I knew how it went or not, I'm still like, why are they making these adjustments in the money like 3 years after the fight? That would get, if I was looking for a problem, they gave me a reason to sniff around further for a problem. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, case in point, Jake Paul is acting stupid with Floyd. And Floyd said, look, man, we did a pay-per-view. It's got to wind up, and I got to get it to you. That's because, just like Paul said, he has lawyers who don't know the boxing business, and they're running around saying, you owe me money, but he doesn't understand the wind-up. And that is very similar to this. But then you look at some other lawsuits, Mark. Contracts. You got Tank is leaving Floyd. He's done with Floyd.
Right.
That was an interesting one to read about, actually, just out of curiosity.
Yeah, but Floyd saying you got to fight Rolly. So he's going to fight Rolly. But we realize what happened with Floyd. He bought himself out, and now Tank is buying himself out. So if you look at it that way, it's all just relative to me.
Yeah, once you get to a certain level, you don't need them anymore. If you let the contract ride itself out, that's why people sit on the shelf for a while. That's why Andre Ward didn't fight for those 2.5 years. He didn't need the Goosens anymore, to be honest with you. And you waited out. Like Canelo kind of got slow at the end, a little bit more time between fights. The 6-month suspension didn't bother him. and he wanted to get out of that thing. It makes all the sense in the world. And like you just said, so now I'm going to cash you out. I'm going to make the most money with you I can before this does expire. And, that seems to be the case there. And I wonder what goes back to even the 360 promotions. The first fight, Canelo and Triple G was with 360 promotions. And I know that ended ugly. So I don't know if he just thought, I can make so much more money if I'm the promoter as well. Who knows? This just like this whole thing has so many. It's not like it was put it this way. I don't think we'd be sitting here discussing this if it was Top Rank and Golden Boy, because they would sort it out themselves. I think this is a matter of Triple G being a new promoter kind of thing and truly not understanding how it works. Triple G could beat us all up 500 ways. We probably all know the business side better than Triple G.
Well, so there's additional, let's unpack some, that's, I'm not going to touch that one, but I am going to say that additionally, the initial rematch contract stated that Golden Boy and Triple G agreed that the location of the sponsors on the ring mat shall be substantially the same as the September 16th, 2017. There's a diagram that they have in the complaint, which is attached, and in exchange for Triple G agrees that it will generate a minimum of $450,000 in sponsorship revenue for the event.
I'm actually shocked that, so it's like I've co-promoted in the past, and it's most of the time the involvement is just they have one of the main event fighters. They don't want to do anything else. I think, to be completely honest, you're thinking about this. He's the fighter in the main event getting a purse. It's almost amazing to me that Golden Boy would agree to 55-45, having filled the rest of the undercard. Triple G doesn't have a single other fighter signed to his promotion that was on this undercard, and Golden Boy had every single expense. I'm sure Triple G's people didn't find the sponsors. I'm sure Golden Boy did. And it just rehash that for me again. Was Golden Boy going to share the sponsors? I don't think they should.
No. So Triple G was supposed to get $450,000 from sponsorships that he was going to be bringing to the table. So that's $450,000 that he was supposed to get. Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I'm reading this correctly. So he's supposed to get $450,000 in sponsorship revenue for the event, right? So then what happens is Golden Boy Promotions literally sold the prominent placement right out of under Triple G's.
That's what they're alleging.
Yeah.
That's why I was saying, that was my point earlier about him getting stonewalled on the sponsorship there, is that they messed around and put in their own sponsor by their account, which cuts Golovkin's and the sponsorship money theoretically out or down. So,
right.
Because that location. But
I'm sure Golden Boy has running sponsors. They don't send someone a pound of payment for every event they do. I'm sure they have 10-year contracts. So there's no way Triple G was going to weasel his way in and get any prominent sponsors.
Well, supposedly he was securing $450,000 in sponsorships that were supposed to go to his way out of the money, and then
for his own,
and
so he was going to get these sponsors. He gets to keep his own sponsor money. Why would Golden Boy split theirs?
Well, no, Golden Boy also improperly inputted against Triple G its share of $150,000 of a different sponsorship for corner pads, which remained with the site sponsor and which were not available to Golden Boy. Right? You want to break that down?
Yeah. That's part of the deal with the venue. We get to keep two of the corner. Yeah, that's typical as well. I just wondering if Triple G first of all, nobody brought to the table. I have a hard time believing he got $450,000 of the sponsors, not because he's not popular and can't. I'm like just what I said before. They've never done one single event. They don't have the people in place to even do this. You'd have to hire people to go do that. Right. Triple G is not going to show up at a car dealer and say, "Hey guys, want to give me $50,000? I'll put your name on my T-shirt." So and Paul, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think Triple G was capable of doing any of this as a promoter.
Well, there's more.
I don't even know why he wanted to get involved in this stuff. He should have left well enough alone in my eyes.
Listen, John, there's more. There's more. Okay, you guys, Harold's up there. He's going, oh my God, like this is crazy, right? So there's more. Harold, there are smaller amounts not paid by Golden Boy as well. These include pay-per-view monies paid to Golden Boy of approximately $70,000, which 45% is due to Triple G. Funds deducted as an expense relating to the cancellation of the bout on May 5th, 2018, which would be a Triple G responsibility. Unappropriated insurance expenses, and then other funds simply not paid through although listed on Golden Boy's own accounting as I guess it's like $177,458 more. Oh my God. So when you start tacking this all together, I don't know. It's a lot.
I think Triple G would have been better just making this in association with rather than co-promoting. He would have got his name up there. He could have done it. I really don't see, I truly don't understand what he was thinking the more we discuss this, because now you mentioned the thing about the cancellation. If he's the co-promoter, what's he going to sue himself because he didn't get paid for the first bout being canceled? Because he's the co-promoter.
Well, I guess what he's asserting, I don't know, Paul, maybe you can share. I think he's asserting that because Canelo was actually signed by Golden Boy at the time, right? And he was like the outside guy, right? He wasn't, I mean, even though he was co-promoting, right? I think he's looking for money. I don't really know, but
yeah, I mean, I'd have to see the co-promotional agreement. I think the attachment, if that was part of one of the attachments from the complaint, I didn't actually see that yet. But there's some talk of in the promotional agreement about the failure of one of the promoters' parties or fighters to perform. I mean that would theoretically fall to Golden Boy, but I don't know if that was in there or not.
Right.
Well, to me, there are astute lawyers connected to Triple G. I think you're just saying, let's just shake the trees and see what falls out.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. I mean, well, just the two firms that are on there. Pat English has been around boxing for decades, especially in the New Jersey area, and Mitchell Silverberg, you don't just pick up for any old matter either. So they must think they have something to work on here. And again, when you have in the history detailed in the complaint at least two episodes where they're kind of doing mea culpas on the money, even if they're not liable for anything, they certainly had enough to go on to say maybe we were getting worked in some way. Let's look into this further by way of court action and formal discovery.
Man,
there they are.
There they are. There they went. There they were. Yeah, man. I mean, that was, I really want to see another fight with these two. What do you guys think? Weigh in.
I have no interest.
Really?
No.
Wow.
John, you've seen the style. You know what's going to happen in the third fight.
And Triple G is 3 years, he's 4 years older, and he was at the end of his prime then. I just think it's almost like, I truly thought Triple G won the first fight. There shouldn't even have been a second one. And then you go to that, we have this whole mess, and this whole thing has been a circus the whole way through. The first one with the decision, the second one with this nonsense we're going through now. And at this point, Triple G is 4 years older, and I think we talked about before, I don't think it's a given he wins his next fight for starters. If I were him and really wanted this fight, I think I would get rid of that immediately. And like we said, I'm just saying, I agree. There's other fights out there. Triple G is just, he's out of his prime at this point.
Yes, and he's got to go to Japan and hound that man whose culture is, I'll die here.
Yeah,
and that is a lot. Japanese fighters, the mentality. Yeah, and he's going there. I mean, he can win the fight, but he could really have a lot taken out of him. And then he's got to turn around and fight a Canelo.
And he's struggling. He struggled with his last 3 or 4 opponents. He's not looked like the old Triple G at all. And I couldn't agree more. I don't need to see this. I mean, it's not Triple G versus Canelo. It's what's left of Triple G. And it is, Canelo, hitting his peak. I wasn't a big fan of Canelo. I didn't think he was that talented. He got better and better and better. Whatever you want to think of as a creation, had the benefit of, some of these fights, you shake your head after the fight because there's always something with the Canelo fight that, you have to rethink twice. But at the same time, I truly now think he's a very, very good fighter, which I never thought before.
Yeah, he's in his prime right now.
I'm not
He's
sure
in his prime. His
I'm
mental
not sure
prime.
there's one boxer. I'm not sure there's one active boxer in boxing that's been so predictable the last few times out as Canelo. It's like spends a few rounds not looking sharp, and then all of a sudden the guy's laid out by the late rounds. You're like, what did he actually do? He wore him out slowly, and that seems to be the plot in Canelo fights the last couple of times.
But some things make you wonder at times with Canelo. Like, for example, when's the last time you saw a guy moving up from middleweight to light heavy against a guy called Crusher, and the guy named Crusher runs away the whole fight, gets hit with something on the side of the head, and he goes down like he got shot with a cannon.
Wait,
I find that bizarre.
just quickly, we know Canelo as Tank has that killer instinct. I don't care how big the guy is in front of you. Once he has you hurt, they know how to come get you. That's just a mentality. Whether your body can handle that physically or not, the mental part is there. And as you guys always say, you boxing guys, it's 80% mental, 10% physical or whatever. So at that point, I feel Canelo is at his peak mentally, physically, and he's going to take anybody out. And when he hit Crusher, he hit Crusher. And I think he's going to knock out anybody else now that he's hot in his prime. Mentally, he's just really unstoppable right now, mentally. And that is a huge part of it.
This fight coming up, this is his toughest fight because the guy's a little too big for him. He's a young fighter. He's actually hasn't probably hit his own peak yet, possibly. But this is a very, very, very tough fight. I mean, it's a huge step up in class, obviously, but this is going to be a fun fight for this one. So, I mean, you got two guys that are facing very, very tough opponents. And, I mean, by the time this happens, what is Triple G going to be, 40 years old?
Yes.
I think he's already 40. Isn't he already 40?
I don't need that one, but hey, I want to see Bivol and Canelo. I think Canelo steps inside after a few rounds and takes him out with the inside work. Everybody's going to go down when Canelo hits you in on the inside. I mean, that's just what he does. He has that torque. He has it. That's
that script the last few fights. Yep.
This is a tough one. This is his toughest task since the first Triple G fight, I do believe, though. Like the Rocky Fieldings of the world and Billy Joe Sanders, who just wants a payday before he moves on. And, like those guys were nice fighters, but this is a legitimate guy in his prime, that undefeated fighter that thinks he can win. So I think this is going to be a very fun fight that I really am looking forward to. I'm to the point now, like Mark will tell you, we've been to so many fights in our lives that I don't watch them unless I don't know who's going to win anymore because, they get disappointed. And I'm interested in this one. There's some fights on the horizon. Finally, I have that mentality for. This is a good one, and
yes, I agree.
Has a legitimate chance to win.
I agree.
And
because him coming back down to 168, we know he's going to take out Canelo. He's going to take out a Triple G. I would like to say, but the subsequent fights that me and Mark we talked about, we have a topic on that. The subsequent fights after. The Triple G comes back to Triple G, where he can go. Mark, you want to touch on that?
No, go ahead. I'm right here. I'm swimming with you.
Okay, well, he's got a mandatory at 168 when he comes back down. After he beats Triple G, he's got a mandatory. Or when he beats Bivol, he'll have a mandatory there. Which mandatory does he take? The mandatory for Bivol could be John Ryder, or the mandatory for the 168 could be I haven't searched it, but he has two mandatories, provided he beats Bivol and he beats Triple G. Which one would you take? Would you take the light heavyweight mandatory, or would you take the 168? Now you just dropped down from 75 to 68 to fight. Do you move back up and go get that 75, or you stay at the 68?
I'm going to take the one that makes the most money. I'm going to take the one that makes the most money.
Exactly.
Okay, so I understand the money. But what about the physical thing that takes out of you? Okay, we all know about the Roy Jones things, but we've seen different fighters who have taken the money and they're yo-yoing up and down, and they're not successful. So we have to look at that. Now, he's 30-something years old. Is his body pliable to do so?
He's going to see how he feels. He's going to see how he feels at this weight and make a judgment off of that. He'll see what he feels like, and base it off of that. I'm guessing would be the logical thing. How'd you feel this weight? I feel great. All right, let's go to the next guy at this weight then.
Yeah, but they're all going to say that. Paul, what you think?
Yeah. Which part of it? Which fight he should take?
That's not true. That's not true anymore. They don't all say that anymore. Now they have excuses why they didn't split their bets.
I mean, specifically speaking, it's not like John Ryder created a mandate with his win over Jacobs versus probably more attractive light heavyweight opponent. But I think to John's point, it really depends with monetarily on the one hand and how his body feels. I don't have any reason to believe that Canelo becomes a meatball like Ricky Hatton or Nassim Ahmed sometimes did between fights. But just the same, that up and down can take its toll too.
And Canelo is one of the best in the world.
Jones. I'm saying that was about the Johnny fight where he's never the same when he came back down. So, maybe he stays up, maybe he.
But it's Canelo. Like he dictates what happens with everybody else. Everybody wants Canelo. It's a little bit different with guys. I feel great because they got to do what they got to do to maneuver into a fight. Canelo can say he wants to fight Manny Pacquiao at 200 pounds tomorrow. They will find a way to make that happen in the Philippines to make $4 billion somehow.
Payday.
So you got to consider that.
Payday.
I thought he's got to take Usyk next if he wins against Bivol.
But I'll tell you what, I would go overseas. Canelo is in the best position of any fighter since Floyd. And it's not that long ago, but he really is. And he's going to dictate what happens next. You can throw all normal logic out the window when you're talking about that because it's Canelo and everybody wants to fight Canelo.
John, you are so right. Canelo wants to fight either in London or in Mexico. Okay. Hearn wants to take him over to London and show him off, right? So
I would do the same.
So Ryder gets that. I mean, do we do Wembley or Wembley Stadium or whatever? Exactly. Or do we go to Mexico, Guadalajara, his countrymen, and do we pack out that soccer stadium? Which way do we go? Which mandatory? That's all I'm saying. Now, as far as the money is concerned, what do you think? Overseas, with the taxes, whatever over there, you get to keep it all, and then you have to come back over here and drop nothing. Or you go to Mexico, where you got the mob, got their hand in there. You got the state of the country in there. So what do? But we know that subsequently he's gonna have to fight one of those two, and that's what's laying right here. Which one would you go? You talk about the money. Would you go overseas or would you go to Guadalajara?
There is no way Canelo's losing any kind of decision in Guadalajara. I mean, you can give him a 7-round handicap in that one if you're going to go to Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so I mean, it really depends. Chavez made a lot of money fighting in Mexico in soccer stadiums, and Canelo's in a similar situation. He hasn't had a real big fight in Mexico ever. Correct? Am I correct?
Correct. That's the mandate. That's what they're talking about.
I truly believe that would be in the best interest to put him in his home country. Now, you could make billions of dollars with that one.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, what's your feeling about Canelo being undisputed at 175 pounds? What do you think about that?
Well, Beterbiev
that's doable given his skill set.
Yeah, Beterbiev has a fight coming up here with someone. Who is it? It's not Smith. Smith is still sitting.
Yeah, he is fighting Joe Smith Jr. next.
Oh, yes, he is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So we know which way that's going to go. Now, Smith is going to beat him up. He's going to lose, but he's going to beat him up.
Yeah.
Will he be strong enough and mentally strong enough to fight a Canelo after such a knockdown, drag him out with Smith?
I think I'll be honest. If I had my pick tomorrow and they say you can see Canelo fight anybody you want, it's not on the table because of the situation with the contract. I think I want to see him fight the bigger Charlo. To be honest, I think that
so far Charlo is getting treated like Calzaghe during the Jones era or Michalczewski during the heavyweight Jones era. It's like, where is he in this mix here?
Well, it works out for him now finally because they work with PBC.
Yeah,
the zone. It all finally came together without the Golden Boy connection for Canelo. And I'll tell you what, by getting rid of that situation, he opened up so many more opponents for himself. Golden Boy's getting sued by everybody, or they're suing somebody else. Canelo got rid of all that mess. With your promoter can't get along with nobody. Get away from your promoter. Now look at all the doors that are open. Look at the fight for boxing about when he had the Golden Boy connection.
See, but Big Charlo, he can't fight anybody Canelo's rumored to fight. He can't beat no one that Canelo has beaten.
No, but I think it.
So Charlo's invalid.
Popular. They're very popular. You put it in Texas, and I think that's the fight. I think that would interest me the most, to be honest with you, just because Charlo's still undefeated. He's a level clearly below Canelo. just because they built it so long and it's simmered, I like to see that one. And they could do a lot. Money-wise, it would do pretty well, I think.
Okay, but what about the pure side, the boxing side, the pure side? No, I don't want to see that.
Who do you want to see? Who do you want to see him fight?
Okay, he needs to go fight what? The guys that Canelo beat to get to 168. Go fight those guys.
Who do you want to see Canelo fight? Who's the fight?
Who would I like to see Canelo fight? Well, initially, I would like to see him fight Better Beef, if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Well, that's at 170. You're talking about 175, though.
75.
Yeah.
Everybody else is sub to him. Everybody. It was all the 60s, all the 68s. You can blow them up. You can Superman them. They're all lost. Well, they're all beat.
Let's talk about.
I want to see him go to 75 and fight that man.
So at 75,
the rest of them, he beats them all.
75. You got Arthur Beterbiev. You got Demetrius Bivol, I believe. You got Joe Smith Jr., Gilberto Ramirez, right? Maxim Valsov, Joshua Butasi, Callum Smith, Dominique Bozell, Anthony Yard, Marcus.
No way Canelo's sticking around any weight division long after he fights the top 3 money fights.
He's
going to move on to bigger money somewhere. He's not going to be put
as he should, but he can beat those guys. And that's a good fight. Whereas, like you said, mentally you like, hey, okay, I'll watch this. The rest of this mess. Oh, please, I'll go have a beer. So I get that.
Well, and that's his game.
And I appreciate that, Paul. I appreciate you saying that.
I think Charlo has the biggest name in America. I don't think Bivol's not a household name for like the casual boxing fan. Doesn't know any of these guys.
Or better be for that matter.
It's going to be Charlo. And with Canelo, you want to get the casuals because it leads to more money.
Well,
and
go ahead, Paul.
That's an interesting point because I mean, if you're talking about the casual fan, Joe Smith Jr.'s got a lot of appeal. Also, obviously, he's got to get past Beterbiev, but that's a guy that really could get like the blue collar behind him in the U.S. in droves for the right fight.
As far as for the casual, none of these names that have been mentioned are doing anything for the casual. It's just another guy they don't know who it is. To be like Canelo doesn't have an equal. That's the problem. He doesn't have an equal right now.
So
and there's nothing you can do about it.
David
Benavidez is that he's overseas. That's the cachet.
Yeah,
I'm overseas. I'm fighting this guy overseas. I'm in a whole nother continent, a whole nother market. Like Prince didn't tour in America for the last 15 years. So let me go over to Europe. I can make more money. Bump the American people. I don't care about their money. I want that money over there. So let him go over there, become an international type dude. Then come back and fight in Mexico. I say make yourself an international icon. Go over there and do that, and then come back here.
Even Roy Jones, at the end of his career, he was going overseas, he was making millions still. He was saying exactly your point, but he used Michael Jackson. The people in Russia never saw Michael Jackson. If Michael Jackson would he'd make a lot more money than where they've seen him 100 times. He would go over to get huge money. He would fight in the U.S. He fought that cruiserweight guy in Delaware. I mean, the money he made for that is embarrassing for Roy Jones. He went overseas and he was making $1 million still.
Right.
Yeah, but that was because he couldn't get a license in America. They was like, you're not going to die over here in our commission. So he
fought in Delaware. He fought the Delaware fight.
But then he went and became a Russian citizen. Remember that? So he could fight in Russia. Because he couldn't get, it's like Evander Holyfield, he couldn't get a license. They were like, oh, no, you're not dying over here. And Roy was looking bad. And then Roy went over there and got knocked out a whole bunch of times violently because he couldn't get nothing in America.
He fought in Britain for $1 million too.
Who?
Roy Jones fought in Britain for $1 million. Enzo Maccarelli, the guy that trained by Kazaki Sr.
Yeah.
Over here, he was making 1/10 of what he's making over there. So that was the logic. And that ties into exactly what you're saying now. Go somewhere else. In America, he don't have an equal dance partner. In Britain, he does, and in these other countries, he does.
I see your point. Charlo is the closest one in your eye. Charlo's the closest dance partner.
I think America. He is, and he's not even close. I mean, he's 2 levels down skill-wise, popularity-wise. But it's smart.
You know what that means?
All right, y'all.
John, that means we gotta.
Yeah, no.
The teacher didn't say cool out.
That was your harp. Gentlemen. We are just about at the end of our program, and just before we end the program, I would like to rally you for your top 3 pound for pound. Now, this is a pound for pound. The listeners need to hear, who do you have as your pound for pound. So let's go, Harold. Top 3 pound for pound.
No, I don't want to be first. I gotta go after John. I gotta go after John. Go, John.
Mine's gonna be unique, and I'll tell you that right now. But I think, okay, so first of all, if there was no car accident, I'm not convinced Spencer's recovered. I really liked him a lot before the accident, but I'm gonna put Inoue at 3. I'm going to put Crawford at 2. And you didn't say nothing about male or female. The best fighter in the world is Sinisa Estrada. She holds 2 world titles,
wow.
21-0, and that is a pound for pound best fighter in the world.
Wow, interesting
Very
list.
Nice.
Very nice. Well done. Okay, Harold.
Paul. Oh no! Go to Paul.
Okay, Paul.
My view are a little more conventional. I'll have Canelo secured at number 1. I'll go Fury right now too. I've never seen a heavyweight quite like him before, and he's just confounding. I think he'll thump Dillian White. And third, I'll take one from John's list and go with Terrence Crawford. I mean, I just hope he gets active again. This is like an annoying situation watching this guy not fight when he's so freaking competitive and tough every time he's out.
Okay.
I mean, take a guy. Okay. He's a guy that people told me was like, mid-level amateur. And then as soon as he made his HBO debut, he got incrementally better every fight I've seen him in practically. Keep that party going.
Okay. My turn.
Your turn.
Number 1, we have Canelo, who at this point, regardless of subsequent, his footwork is suspect, he can take you out. Number 2, Shakur Stevenson.
Oh,
now think about that. In your mind, can you think of someone that can beat him? No. Number 3, Terrence Crawford.
I mean, I can think of 10 guys that could beat him right now. I mean, if this was the 1970s, he would be fighting, like getting ready for his first 8-rounder.
Who?
Stevenson is. Okay, so what weight are we looking at for him? You got a bunch of guys he's in the mix with.
Stevenson is wow.
You know what? He's not even on my radar. It's like I don't take him like as a champion.
Right.
But I think he's still, getting better and better. If he's number 2 in the world right now with that few fights, we're in big trouble.
He's ranked number 1. He's ranked on a lot of the rankings. He's number 1.
You've seen him.
He's ranked number 1. I do not have him as a pound for pound because as John has mentioned, he hasn't fought anybody that would really put him pound for pound on my list. Although I do appreciate his skill sets. He's not going to go on my pound for pound list. My pound for pound list is obviously Saul Canelo Alvarez as number 1. I've got Alexander Usyk, who's right now not fighting because he's God bless him in the Ukraine fighting for his country. And then I would have to say, Inoue, it would be my number 3 at bantamweight. He would be my pound for pound. That's my pound for pound top 3. But it fluctuates week for week, man. The boxing world is on fire and things can shift on a dime. I do not think Canelo has an easy fight with Bivol. I think he's got to be very careful with that fight. While I'm sure, Team Alvarez doesn't feel that. I do think there are some skill sets there that Bivol has that could give Canelo a little bit of trouble. So but I do have him as my pound for pound number 1 currently. Active fighters, pound for pound. Saul Canelo Alvarez is my pound for pound number 1. And that's my list, and I'm staying to it. And gentlemen, I want to thank you guys for being on the program. All 3 of you are sincerely gentlemen and scholars, and it's been a pleasure. And I hope you've enjoyed listening to the Boxing Breakdown. I hope it's been very insightful. I know at times it's been very passionate, but I hope that you got a little something out of this podcast. And certainly, when in doubt, make sure you have the right boxing attorney. Make sure you have the right boxing manager. And you should be so fortunate to have the best boxing judge in the industry right there, Mr. Harold Hunt, watching your fight because he'll call it right every time. And
Thus far.
That's right. That's all I got to say. And I appreciate you guys checking in and listening to another edition of the Boxing Breakdown. And guys, until next time, peace and love. And I'll see you on the other side. Peace out.
Take it easy, John.
Bye-bye,
Nice
you
meeting all
guys.
Great night, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Fight fans, join host Mark Roxey and special guests as they break down all aspects of the boxing world, including news, business, management, training, promotions, fan reactions, upcoming events, matchups, future boxing stars, title fights, state of the boxing world, and all the stuff you don't see when you watch boxing. This podcast is released each week on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Live streamed on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook Live. It's the Boxing Breakdown, hosted by Mark Roxey.